Welcome to this edition of You Can Get There From Here. I'm Dr. Joel Moore, Chair of the Department of Communication and Digital Media Production at the University of Central Missouri, and it's my pleasure every week to get to sit down and visit with some of our alumni. I talk to those who graduated in digital media production, others who got their degree in communication studies, and we even get to talk sometimes to graduates from our master's program. Today, we are talking with Jacob Woerther, aka Jake the Snake. Jake is a graduate of our digital media production program, and he is now an engineering producer for the Famous Group. So, Jake, I'm still waiting on my Super Bowl tickets, but it's great to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Joe. It's great to be here, man. It's awesome to see the studio, and yeah, I'm excited to talk some UCM stuff, talk about students, the path, and everything in between, I guess.
Well, we're glad to have you. We've been wanting to get this done for a while. I had a couple technical issues, had to cancel last week, but we got you back on this week. So it's great to have you on with us. I'm also glad to hear that you're back over in Lee Summit, so you're close to us again. So we're going to need to get you to come down to campus.
Absolutely. Hey, anytime, any excuse to get back to Warrensburg.
That's
I'm always
right.
looking for a reason to come back.
That's right. So let's start with introducing yourself. Tell everybody where you're from, high school, where you went, what brought you to UCM, and what got you into digital media production.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from the St. Louis area. I went to a small school out there called St. Dominic for high school. Shopped around for colleges, right? Looked a lot of different places. UCM kind of stood out to me for a few reasons. It was like a smaller college, but like it felt big. And then I loved a lot of the different programs it had. I knew that if I went there and I changed routes, there was like a lot of different choices, right? Because I felt like, because I had an idea in mind of what I wanted to do, but I felt like I was going to end up doing something else, right? And there was like so many different options there. So I knew no matter what I chose, I was going to be all right there. So ended up at UCM, didn't ex actually start in DMP, switched over to that. And then I just got involved with a ton of different DMP programs and different activities and podcast and shows and producing CTV shows. And it was just kind of off to the races from there. And then had a few different jobs between graduating and now. I worked for a company called Daktronics for a while, who does like the big jumbotrons in sports stadiums. So got to go to a bunch of sports stadiums and install those. I worked at Iowa State University for a while, which was actually a little less technical. I got to be a little more hands-on and director and producing. I got to direct shows for their video board for ESPN Plus, which was like a ton of fun. And then from there, I just kept working my way north a little bit. I went to the Minnesota Timberwolves. That was a lot more technical focus. That was like very much engineering wires and converters and all those kinds of things for their video board show. And then most recently, I'm at the Famous Group now, and we work with teams across the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, international leagues as well. And we make software solutions for them so they can entertain their fans in really, really creative and engaging ways. So that's kind of been the path so far to how I started and how I ended up where I'm at now.
Well, you jumped my next question. I was going to walk through all those stops along the way. What did you learn at each step, from Daktronics to Iowa State to Minnesota to now with the Famous Group? What was it that you were able to take away from each of those positions?
Yeah, and I feel like I took something a little different from every position, and not only like skill wise, like wires and technology and things like that, but a lot of like leadership skills along the way too. Like at Iowa State, for example, I was thrown into like a control room and I needed to lead, and everyone there had been running that show for like 15 years, right? Everyone there was like nearly old enough to be my parents, right? And I was going to be in charge of them. So that was like a really good learning opportunity. Is like how do you manage people that have more experience, that are older than you, that know a little better than you, and how do you manage those kinds of situations? So like that was a really cool experience, and then that translated over to others because I went to the Timberwolves. I had a control room full of people I had to manage there. And at the Famous Group, I've managed anywhere from 2 to 10 people at a time, depending on I've switched positions a few times, but depending on what team I'm managing too. So that helps a lot as well. Because I think people overlook that, right? Like it's great to have the technical skills, it's great to know how to do it, but unless you can really communicate to people and work in a group and lead those people, right, that's like another big piece of that puzzle.
I think that's a important thing that, a lot of people don't think about is you get into one of those managerial positions, you might be managing people who've been there longer, who are older, who maybe know a little bit more about how that system works than you do. And what really did you learn from that? One of the things in my own experience when I've gone into those situations is Don't go in acting like just because I'm the manager, I'm the boss, that I know everything, because I may know what the book says. I may know the way I used to do it, but you're on a whole other system. There may be a new way of doing things here.
Right, and even if I am an expert in it, I might not know this particular place's way of doing it, right? And that's something too. And I think it's important not to go into that attitude with you said, like, you know everything. Like what I've found too is like, make the people a part of the decision, right? Like, hey guys, this is what I want to do. What are your thoughts? And sometimes they'll agree with you, sometimes they won't. And if they don't, okay, well, this is what I want to try this time, and this is why, right? I think as long as you can explain the thought process behind what you want, and then you say, okay, this is what I want to try this time. And if it doesn't work out, then maybe we pivot to something else. But I think that's part of it. Some of those more senior people at least want to feel like they're a part of that decision. So I think bringing them into those kinds of things goes a long way as well.
Well, I think that's for you. You're ideally suited for that because the Jake Werther I know, very knowledgeable, very talented, but also very humble. And it takes a humble leader to be able to do that, to go in and say, because you're going to put your ego aside a little bit and you can make yourself a little bit vulnerable that, hey, this is how I would do it. You've been here before. How would you do it? But then still have that humility and that leadership ability to be able to say, okay, well, that's how we've done it before. Let's try it this way and see if we can do something different. So good on you, man. That's great. So now you are an engineering producer for the Famous Group. What does that mean? I mean, what all is involved in that? You shared a video with me on LinkedIn. I'm gonna see if I can get that downloaded, and I'm gonna put that in the video portion of this podcast. I want people to be able to see it, or at least link to it. But what do you do as an engineering producer?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I actually just recently got promoted too. I'm now a technical solutions architect, which
Oh,
is a
congratulations.
lot of words. Thank you. A lot of words. Really what it means is I'm handling a lot of the technical things, but it's almost a full cycle with some of the products we're making. So in my role, we're creating the software for sports teams to use, right? It's supposed to be some of those innovative stuff out there, how to engage and entertain fans. We use things like AI and VR and AR and all these different technologies, right? But for my role, what I'm really doing is I'm trying to figure out what like the next cool new technology is that we can implement. I'm helping our development team find ways to implement it into our platform. I'm talking to teams about it, saying, hey, this is the idea we have. Do you think this would work in your stadium? What are your thoughts? And then I'm going out and selling it too, saying, hey guys, this is what we have. This is why you can get it to your sponsorship team. This is what the profit margins can look like. And then I'm actually going on site and putting that in stadiums. So physically going there and saying, hey, we're going to plug it in like this during the halftime. This is how it's going to turn on, and this is how we can use it. So it's really cool. You kind of get to see these things come to life from conception all the way to boots on the ground when we're doing it for real. That's kind of my workflow at this current role.
Okay, this is gonna be a longer conversation. I'm gonna have to come up to Lee Summit and take you to lunch. We need to talk about how you're using AI and AR and VR because that seems to be the going trend, the new direction of digital media production. And how can we learn to use those skills? There's so much fear that that's going to take away the creativity or that's going to take away jobs. And the more I read about it, the more I study it, the more I'm recognizing it's not going to take away creativity. It's not going to take away jobs. It's just going to make them a little bit different. And we need to catch up with that. We need to be on the cutting edge with that, right?
Right. And I feel like in the last 5 years, it's been a whirlwind, right? We had all this traditional media like radio and newspaper, and all that, and it just like shifted in a blink of an eye. And now we're looking at AR, VR, and AI and all these different things. But to your point, I think it's like human nature to fear new things, right? Right. We're afraid of change, right? But in actuality, this change isn't going to replace jobs. And I tell my developers all the time, like, I'm not going to replace you with AI, but what I'm going to do is give you tools that you can do your job 3 times as fast, right? It's like we were all driving like Model T Fords and we all have Ferraris now. We're still gonna drive, we're just gonna do it a lot faster, right? That's kind of the analogy I like to think about. We're always gonna need some human being to have a creative idea and a vision, right? Computers don't have visions, we have visions. Computers help us bring it to life in an efficient way. So I don't think it is going to change some things, but it's not going to replace jobs. It's just going to change how you do those jobs. And we're trying to be the first to market of how we're changing those jobs. We're bringing AI to video boards where you can transform players when they score a touchdown, transform them into a superhero right live on the board without any kind of cuts or anything like that. We're trying to figure out those kinds of workflows. But to your point, like I said, it is scary, but I think the sooner we all adopt it, the better off we'll be. And I think probably the demographic that you teach, that those 18 to 22-year-olds are going to be the ones who pick it up the fastest, right? They're more native to it, they're more familiar with it, and I think that really gives them an edge when they get to the job market, right?
Yeah, that'll be really interesting. We have a new studio on campus. It's not from our department, but over in DLII, the educational technology for AR and VR. So I've been trying to figure out ways we could play with that and something we could do with it. So I'm gonna be picking your brain. We'll set up a time after this.
That was great.
All that you've done, though, all your experience, this job with the famous group took you to the Super Bowl this past year. You were one of 7 of our alumni that were at the Super Bowl for your job this year, which I'm not gonna lie, I was beaming pretty proudly over that one. I didn't care about the outcome of the game. I'm like, I don't care. 7 of my students were down there, and we hyped that up quite a bit. So tell me about that experience. What was that like?
Yeah, well, first, as you should, like, what an accomplishment for the department. Like, Warrensburg, Missouri sent 7 students to the biggest sporting event in the world. 7? Like, that's crazy. That's absolutely insane. So, I mean, if that's not a testament to what you guys are doing down there, I don't know what is. But yeah, it was an awesome opportunity. Like, in the last year, I've got to do some really cool things. I went to the NBA All-Star, the Pro Bowl, but definitely the Super Bowl was the biggest one. We were there doing, it's kind of tricky to even explain, but it's called a mixed reality activation. So it's like real-time AR on the broadcast. So basically a broadcast camera kind of swooped down on the middle of the stadium, the field, and we brought down this giant Super Bowl logo, this 3D logo, and all these New Orleans beads and logos. And it all happened in real time in the stadium on the boards, right? So there wasn't any kind of rendering, there wasn't any kind of delay. The camera operator, or the director, I should say, cut to the camera operator, and we saw all this happen in real time playing back from our system. So it's really cool. It's kind of a crazy activation. It takes days of setup. We set up these cameras and we track to where the field is and where the ceiling is and calculate all this distances and put in all this 3D stuff. So it's a really cool setup. It's a really complex setup, but it's so cool when it comes alive because it's like, man, it really looks like the roof's opening and it really looks like all these 3D things are coming down. So it's kind of like a little bit of disbelief, like how is that happening? Like how is that on the screen right now? And I can see the real stadium like around it, you know. So it's really cool to activate and see in real life. And we've done a few of them now that we're going from place to place and setting up this kind of activation.
Do you mind if I share that on the video portion, or at least put a link to where they can watch it on
Oh
the
yeah, please
comments?
do. Yeah, it's like I said, it's really
It was
cool.
really
Yeah,
cool.
it's a ton of fun. So yeah, definitely share it about. Absolutely.
All right. Well, since you had a good experience down there, I'll forgive you not getting the tickets for the old man. Because so yeah, you had a good experience at that. It's good enough for me. I'll live with that. You mentioned when I asked you to be on the show that you felt like you had an unfair advantage over the competition because of the training you got here. First of all, that was awesome. Loved that. Second of all, why? In what way?
Yeah, I mean it's actually crazy the amount of things that I was able to do through UCM and the resume and the reel that I left there with. Like I actually had to like sit down and make a list before this, but like at UCM, I worked for a newspaper, I worked for a news station, I worked for a radio station, I hosted my own football show, I hosted a podcast, I produced live events on CTV, I directed live events, I was a camera operator, I was a replay operator. Like I got to do all like that's like a dozen things right there at UCM, and all these went on a resume, all these went on a reel. And you guys have these great resources. You have a great studio. You have a sports production program. Like there's a lot of great colleges in Missouri. They have a lot of sports, but they're not doing the kinds of things that you guys have there, right? Like I think it's just like such a great opportunity that the students can go create things and have a platform and have all these demos and all these reels like and like really whatever avenue you want to go, right? If you want to be a camera person, if you want to be live talent, if you want to host a podcast, if you want to write, if you want to host, like it's just anything you want to do, you guys have some kind of resource there for, and you have really good tools. Like a student can walk up and go rent a camera and then go shoot whatever they want for the day. Like that's insane, right? Like that's like what an opportunity that is. Like those cameras cost thousands of dollars. Like a regular 18-year-old can't do that. You have a full studio. Like a regular 18-year-old can't just walk into a studio and make a show. Like that's such an advantage going to the workplace when you have all of these things you can do and create and roll into an interview and say, look at this real world stuff I did. Look at these really good content I created. Like that's just ahead of the game, right?
Well, and the thing that we always say is in digital media production, we make stuff. And you
Right.
can't learn how to make that stuff by reading it in a book and, maybe bringing a camera up and everybody gets to take a turn on it, you're going to have to get hands-on experience. You're going to have to rotate through those positions and learn to work with other members of your team and how to be a leader and how to be a follower. And so I'm glad that's translated well. It's worked out really well for you. That leads me into my next question. The university's new slogan is redefining what's possible. When 18-year-old Jake Woerther was coming to college, did you envision that you'd be working at the Super Bowl one day, that you'd be doing some of the massive, beautiful graphics that we see? What does redefining possible mean to you?
No, never in a million years I thought that. When I worked for Brad Zimmerman, I did the Kansas City Mavericks. I was like, I made it. This is it. Like this is the peak of what I wanted to do in life, right? Like this
Which
is
was pretty cool.
yeah. Yeah, which is great testament to like don't put limits on yourself, right? Like you said, you had seven people at Super Bowl. Like people who graduate from UCM can literally do anything at any job in any position in the world. And I think that's kind of the mindset you have to start with. And I really do think that like not saying those limitations, and also just because you're a 22-year-old graduating college either, I think we set limitations on ourselves that like, oh well, I can't really do this or that. Like again, as I mentioned earlier, I think some of these people who are 20, 21, 22 years old who are adapting to technology sooner and are trying new things, there's a lot of people and companies that are really stuck in their ways and stuck in a kind of previous way of doing something. I think coming out of college, you're going to have really fresh new ideas. You're going to be more in tune with current technology, and you're going to have some opportunities to make something really cool. So I think you really can make something that wasn't possible before and literally redefine what's possible. And I think people in that demographic, they have great ideas, they have concepts. So I think that there's no reason that you can't graduate from college and really create something and do something that hasn't been done, and especially the way the technology is evolving right now. I think there's all kinds of opportunity for that.
Well, and you're a testament to that, that how you just grow and evolve and you take what you learned here and you add it here and you put it here and you just keep growing and learning all the things that are possible. So we are so proud of you for all of that, Jake. Before I let you go, I want to take some of your wisdom, some of your experience, and I want you to share that with current UCM students and potential UCM students. What would you say to a student who is in the Department of Communication and Digital Media Production right now to help them get the best from their educational experience before they go out into the work world? And then what would you say to that student, maybe a high school student, maybe a community college, maybe somebody who took a gap year and they're thinking about coming to UCM to study communication and digital media?
Yeah, great question. So if you're at UCM and you're in the middle of the process, the biggest thing I can say is create a platform for yourself, right? We're talking about creating all this content, and you guys do. You make all kinds of great things there, but make a platform where you can put that somewhere and distribute it, right? So, if you're a podcast person, put on Spotify. If you're making videos, put them on YouTube. Even to this day, like I have a really established career, but every week on LinkedIn, I try to publish a project that I do, right? It usually doesn't end up being every week. It ends
I
up
look
being like
forward to those, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I published some kind of project with a new technology, and it's just to keep myself sharp and to keep building my platform, right? But if you have content, go put it somewhere and build an audience, right? Like in the current day and age we live in, like we're a brand now, right? And we
Mhm.
have to build yourself as a brand. So if you do photography, like I said, put on Instagram. If you do whatever, put on YouTube, LinkedIn, Spotify, whatever the medium is, find a platform to share that medium and build that audience because it's that much easier to share it with an employer when it's out there in the world, and it's more likely that employer someone sees it too when you're building that. So
Yeah.
don't only just take advantage of all the great tools you guys have there, but put it somewhere, build a platform, publish it, put it out in the world.
Yeah, I like
Uh,
that you put that you're the brand.
yeah,
You're out there trying to sell yourself. I teach that media promotions class, and we talk about about branding and what's the brand and what is it that you're trying to say and what is it that you do and what makes you better than anybody else. Well, that's you right now. You're the brand, and how are you going to promote it? So I like that. What about that student that's thinking about UCM?
I mean, and this kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier. Like there's so many resources. Like if you're thinking about UCM and you're into this kind of thing, like why not, right? Especially if you guys have that many resources, that many programs. I would argue some of the best faculty too. I mean we can talk all day about the cameras and the studios and all that, but honest to God, the faculty that invested time and effort in me and pushed me and like didn't just sign a name in a grade on my paper, but went and said, "Hey, I think you should get involved in this, and I think you should do that." Like, we don't talk about that enough, right? That's a huge selling point of UCM itself. Is not the tech, but the people too. Like, that's a big difference maker. And then, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say just one final thing. This can kind of go for everybody in the process too, and especially people looking in the job market is, and I know this isn't an option for everybody. People have different life circumstances, but if you're able to and you have the means to move outside of the Warrensburg, the Kansas City area, it does help in the general job search. It opens up more opportunities. There might be one of your dream job in the greater Kansas City area, but there's probably 20 of them across the country too, and that was kind of one of my hacks to moving up to where I was is I moved around a lot. And again, I know it's not an option for everyone in this world, but if it is an option for you, I can't recommend it enough because it not only opened me to new opportunities, new people, new ways of life, but it did help my career as well.
Well, and you get to see new perspectives, and you and I kind of followed that same path. I went to Virginia, then to North Dakota, then to Joplin, and I finally got to come back to Warrensburg. You go to was Nebraska for Daktronics, then to Iowa, then to Minnesota, and look at you now. You're back in Lee Summit, so
Full
you can
circle.
always go back home, and we'll always be happy to have you.
Right, right, right.
Well, Jake, thank you so much for being on today. Again, we're so proud of you. You've done some great things, but more than that, more than the great things you've done, just the humility that you've done it with, and how you've not forgotten where you came from. You've not forgotten those lessons that we taught you. You've grown with them. You're sharing them. You're doing some great things, and just keep it up. All right.
Absolutely.
And thanks all of you for tuning in this week. Remember, you can catch every episode on our YouTube channel through the UCM Media Network at youtube.com/UCMMN. You can also listen on Spotify. Special thanks to Jake Mager for creating our theme music for us. Again, this is Dr. Joe Moore reminding you, you can get there from here. Have a great day.